Coming up, Hakeem Jeffries delusionally thinks the GOP is on the run. Outspoken atheist Richard Dawkins proves to be a coward. The View argues Trump doesn't have a mandate. And The View don't understand what happened with Hillary and Kamala. Hakeem Jeffries believes that the GOP is on the run.
We have the Republicans on the run on three core issues. They are on the run in terms of the economy. In fact, Donald Trump and Republicans are crashing the economy in real time. We have them on the run in terms of health care, particularly as it relates to Medicaid. House Democrats stand on the side of Medicaid and the American people. Republicans are trying to enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And we have them on the run with respect to the GOP tax scam, where they want to cut Medicaid, cut nutritional assistance for children and families, cut veterans' benefits, and potentially cut Social Security benefits by trying to decimate the Social Security Administration.
Jeffries is severely delusional. There are some interim issues on the economy as far as tariffs are concerned, but that is not the same as being on the run for on the entire economy. Trump has been in power for less than 2 months. Tell Jeffries he is kidding himself. And with Medicaid, he is once again clearly not on the same planet. Trump has promised in so many words that there are no cuts to Medicaid. And then with tax cuts, pushing cuts for the rich again, the billionaires argument, and saying Trump wants to cut Social Security. Really? Pretty much everyone knows that this is a lie, as Trump has again stated explicitly that he wants to make Social Security sustainable. In fact, he wants to help Social Security recipients. Jeffries is pushing a nonsense argument while his party is in turmoil. He needs to be working more on his day job and get the Democrats on a solid footing rather than trying to prosecute stupid arguments like these. Even Democrats know how much trouble the party is in. Just listen to Van Jones.
Can we ask another question? Do I have to talk about my own party? Can we talk about Ukraine or something? No. Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be. And so it's going to take a while for people to get it figured out. I don't like talking about this. I'd rather be beat up. Can you give me something I can beat up Michael about? I don't want to talk about my own party.
I know. It's a tough question. Michael, if you happen to be advising Democrats, do you have anything for them?
I mean, look, I'm not in the business of advising them, but for a long time, Democrats, they sort of held the culture. They led culture. They led in many ways the political corridors of urban America. A lot of young people were solidly strong Democratic supporters. And now what you've seen, Jessica, is that the pendulum is swinging. You're seeing a lot of younger people, particularly men, who are moving more to the right. You're seeing Americans who are becoming much more skeptical of the Democratic Party, particularly on cultural issues. And this seems to be a culture shock for Democrats. They're not used to this. And it's a high moment for the Republican Party. And so I don't want to necessarily beat down Democrats, but what I would say is, for my party in particular, let's utilize this opportunity to expand our voter pool, African-American men. Latino men, Latino women, younger voters writ large, so that going into the next midterms next year, we can increase our Republican majority in the House. That's what I see this moment as, an opportunity for Republican increase and further viability for our party. I'll let Democrats figure out their own mess on their own time.
What a quote. We're screwed. He is dead right in terms of the Democrats attacking people left, right and centre and then saying, hey, vote for me. That's a losing tactic. Also, doubling down on their losing strategy doesn't help them. Michael Singleton is also correct. The electorate is moving to the right, including, surprisingly, young people. And the Democrat establishment simply doesn't get it. But others do. If you enjoy this content, please like, share and subscribe. Kayleigh McEnany also demonstrates how ludicrous Jeffries' position is.
I don't know how that's going to fly if they're able to do all this for tax on tips, Social Security. This is going to be very popular for Americans.
If they put a narrow bill on the floor just on that, excluding some of the immigration stuff, you might see a world where you have some leftist politicians, congressmen, maybe even senators that get on board, and that would just throw Hakeem Jeffries' messaging out the window. But when he says the GOP's on the run, I mean, we control both houses of Congress. The GOP controls the presidency, 6-3 constitutionalists on the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, he's holding meetings last Friday, very unhappy meetings where he's having to berate members about their behavior.
So, no tax on Social Security, and yet Jeffries tries to make the argument that the Republicans are attacking Social Security. This is parallel world stuff. Jeffries also behind closed doors is berating and shouting at Democrats for their behaviour while at the same time playing happy campers out in public. GOP is on the run? Jeffries is clearly way out there. Then we have that outspoken atheist Richard Dawkins being asked about an ISIS bride.
There's been a big debate about this ISIS bride, Shamima Begum, whether she should be allowed to come back to this country. Do you have a view about that?
I'd rather not say.
You'd rather not say?
I haven't studied it enough.
Well, she was married to an ISIS fighter.
I know.
She was but she was 15 when she went out there. The debate really is, was she groomed to be part of this terror group in Syria? And as such, should we show mercy and allow her back to this country?
Yes, I'm not going to say about that.
Are you worried about, do you get threats because of the positions you've taken on some of these things?
Yeah.
When you saw what happened to Salman Rushdie, didn't send a shudder through you? Are you saying no, you don't want to talk about it? Or...
Yes.
Right. That's interesting in itself. Because there are areas which you would prefer not to discuss.
Yes. I should have said that before we started.
Dawkins, for all of his bluster against Judaism and Christianity, is an abject coward when it comes to Islam. This guy has accepted all of the privileges conferred by a nation that has traditionally been Christian and given him freedoms that other societies don't offer. So he takes the cheap shots against easy targets, such as Christianity and Judaism, because he knows that there won't be any violent comeback. But he certainly isn't so brave when it comes to questions on Islamic faith and their beliefs. As I said, a moral coward. To see what I mean, see how forthright he is in his condemnation of Christianity and Judaism.
Ground your morality certainly in the Bible would be an appalling thing to do. If you actually look at the Bible, actually look at almost any of the moral lessons you can take from it. And some of the things Jesus said are very nice, but you have to pick and choose your way through. And setting aside Jesus's emphasis on loving your neighbor, which is very nice. The Sermon on the Mount is very nice. The fundamental doctrine of the Old Testament, of course, is appalling. But even
putting the Old Testament aside, in the New Testament,
even the New Testament.
So, according to Dawkins, the Old and New Testaments are appalling in what they teach. This is apart, he says, from some of the teachings of Christ, which Dawkins belittles as very nice. He otherwise says you really have to pick and choose your way through. I would put it that Dawkins is appalling. Someone who clearly doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to follow his own arguments at all when it comes to certain religions. Then we have The View and the issue of a mandate.
I get his point on Medicaid, but this mandate point, if Democrats are going to keep arguing, we only lost by X million of votes, that is not the winning message you guys think that it is.
He doesn't have a mandate.
Can I just tell you what Swazi said, why he voted?
How many votes do you need win by to have a mandate?
This is Swazi's, he's a New York guy, by the way. Yeah. Both parties must hold themselves to the same standards we expect from the other side.
Alyssa Farah Griffin correctly asserts that Republicans have a mandate. This is objectively correct. Yet serial racist Sunny Hostin has her resting bitch face on, claiming that there is no mandate. You won't often see someone with such an "I've just sucked on severely bitter off lemons" face as Hostin has here. What that sort of expression tells you is that any hope of any sort of rational, thought-through position is simply not going to be possible. The reality is that having the presidency, the popular vote, the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court sure as hell is a mandate, as much as Hostin clearly doesn't like it. Then we have the view on female presidential candidates.
Whitmer is there.
Look, Gretch would be great.
We've seen the past 10 years how women do as presidential candidates.
Well, but we're going to have to keep on trying until we get there.
If we keep saying the country's not ready, you never see when the country's ready. So you don't start off by saying they'll never do this. Because
I'm not saying they'll never do it. I'm saying it's not looking too good.
There were a number of potential female candidates for the Democratic Party put up here. But Joy Behar, she of not too many brain cells, says that the country isn't ready for a female president. One of the panelists has the correct view, that you don't know that. And if the candidates are never put up, you never will know. Behar says that it hasn't gone too well in the last 10 years. She is right, but she has drawn the wrong conclusion. The female presidential candidates did not lose because they were females, but because they were duds. But that lesson won't be learned by the View crew, because they automatically think that simply because someone is a Democrat candidate, they are great. What do you think of Richard Dawkins' cowardice? Please let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.